Welcome to the Mortgage Pro Podcast. Education, inspiration, motivation and implementation.
So, Mark, thank you for coming on to the Mortgage Pro Podcast.
No problem, thanks for having me.
So, tell us, obviously, we've been having quite a good conversation in the bar about your history and everything else, but for anyone who doesn't know you, and most of the audience might not, what do you do?
So I have around 20 years experience of building up various different companies, always in some way or another connected with estate agency or property through marketing and technology. I wrote a book called Where Did My Industry Go? That was all about the future of estate agency and business in general, the marketing side of business. The book went on to be number 2 business book in the world, was a bestseller in 4 different categories, and from that I get to go and talk at lots of different events, nationally, internationally, have a TV show on Sky and all sorts of crazy stuff. So now most of my time is spent as CEO of a company called Iceberg Digital. And Iceberg Digital provide marketing automation and artificial intelligence for estate agents.
Nice. And they need that as well.
Yeah,
we were talking before about being transactional, and your industry is the same as mine in that sense.
Yeah, I think every industry needs it. Every company needs some form of systems to run their marketing ecosystem because it's just beyond the capability of a human. Now, It's got to the point whereby there's certain things that computers can do in terms of tracking and knowing when and where to pop up for people that can't be replicated by a human. So estate agents need it, mortgage advisors need it, and everybody needs it really, because it's just the way business works in today's age.
And when you say marketing automation, for the layman, because I was a layman 3 years ago, what does that actually mean to you, and how would you explain it to others?
So most people look at their marketing in terms of some sort of a big checklist.
Yeah.
They might think to themselves, right, I should be doing email marketing and I've got a platform to do it, so I can tick that off the list.
Yeah.
And I've been told I should be putting stuff on LinkedIn, so I can tick that off the list. And they've got this kind of list of things whereby they can say, well, we're ticking all the boxes, so we should be okay.
Yeah.
The problem with that is a couple of things. The first is that it gets out of control pretty quick. So staying on top of it becomes a massive problem. And that in itself creates a big problem with your marketing, because part of the idea of people buying from you is that people will only buy from companies that they know, like and trust.
Yep.
And the trust aspect is created through the consistency. So if I go onto a company's blog page and they've maybe got a blog that they did last week, and then the one before that is from about 8 months ago, my brain tells me I'm not really sure this company's going to show up.
Yep.
If you go on to a company like Nike, I don't even know if Nike has a blog, but if you go onto Nike's website and they've got a blog, I can pretty much guarantee you it just runs like clockwork.
Yeah.
So
consistent, same time, same place. Yeah,
exactly. So marketing automation is based around the idea of there being a bit more of a strategy in your company. What marketing is it that we need to do? Do we need to do email marketing? Do we need to do social? How often do we want this stuff posted?
Yeah.
And then the systems will carry out those tasks for you.
Yeah.
While you can concentrate on the human side of your business.
Yeah.
You might still have to create content.
Yeah.
I mean, you could outsource that as well, but ultimately the systems are going to put the content out there for you at the right time in the right place. And then if you connect that up with tracking systems, then you can make sure that the right content lands in front of the right people at the right time without there being any manual involvement in it whatsoever.
That's the gold dust right there.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that if you explain it to companies, they say, a lot of people would say like, oh God, I need that.
Yeah, that's how I feel right now.
Yeah, but as we were talking about earlier, you can explain to somebody how to get a six-pack. Very few people can actually go through the pain of doing it. Doing marketing automation itself, again, is just ticking off a box.
Yeah.
The strategy behind it is actually building a data-driven company, which takes years to do.
Yeah.
So where it falls down for a lot of people is that they might invest money into the idea of doing marketing automation.
Yeah.
And then after a month, 2 months, 3 months, maybe even 6 months, they're not seeing any real difference in the revenue of the business.
Yeah.
And so they're back in that boat where they're looking at what revenue could they cut. And so that being something that's not cheap, they may well cut that.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a vicious circle, really, in the sense that some people ask, well, when will I see a return on investment? You know, and it's a little bit like asking, when will you see a return on investment from having phones or pens or paper? You know, it's like, it's just a way of doing business.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not doing it, you will disappear at some point, because the companies that are doing it are building these data walls around their company, and there's no quick way of getting to the stage where you've got 3 or 4 years worth of data around your company.
Yeah.
So if you do it once you see that company, it's making an impact for them now.
Yeah.
Maybe they're 3 or 4 years down the line, and you think, we should do it.
Yeah.
You'll always be 3 or 4 years behind them.
Yeah.
When you get to 4 years, they'll be at 8.
Yeah.
You can't catch. So at the moment, the switched on companies they're investing in building data-driven companies. Perhaps even, you could argue, a little bit blindly.
Yeah.
Don't actually know where that leads to.
Yeah.
But they can be pretty certain that not building a data-driven company leads to extinction.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's that thing of acquiring a lead is effectively the most expensive part of actually getting people into your business, isn't it? So what we were talking about earlier is, once that lead comes in, the automation part is being able to say, they're at this stage of the buying cycle, they've absorbed this content, so we need to show them this further content.
Yeah.
And as you said, it's taking them from 1 to 10 effectively, and 10 kind of being the buying point.
Yeah.
And just nurturing them through that process and that sequence, but not only via email, but based on an ad that they've seen on Facebook, and taking care of all of that, isn't it?
Yeah,
almost like a spider's web in a way.
It's exactly like a spider's web, in the sense that for a lot of estate agents that I talk to, and I'm sure it must be the same for mortgage advisors, and as I say, pretty much every business out there, there's this idea that you've got 3 types of people that sort of engage with your company. You've got those that turn into clients.
Yeah.
You've got those that use competitors.
Yeah.
And you've got time wasters.
Yeah.
And actually, the statistics show that the most valuable of those 3 are the time wasters, because they're not really time wasters. The way I kind of explain it to a lot of my estate agents is, no one on a Saturday afternoon thinks to themselves, I don't know what we should do today. Should we go cinema, or should we get 3 estate agents around our house? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's
cinema
not
all day.
Yeah, it's not a fun experience, right? So they are not doing it on purpose. They're not sitting there thinking like, let's waste these people's time.
Yeah.
And a lot of my estate agents will have used companies in the past that have maybe brought them in loads of leads.
Yeah.
And they might come to us and say, we've used companies that have brought us in loads of leads, but they're all useless.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of saying, like, no leads are useless. They're just not ready to buy yet.
Yeah.
But the principle of the idea of how you build a data-driven company is not just to target the active market. If you only target the active market with what you're doing, your revenue will always stay at that level.
Yeah.
So, you know, you start your business and there's an uplift in revenue because you're starting from 0.
Yeah.
And then it goes good and better and better and better, and at some point you reach this kind of plateau.
Yeah.
Where you're probably not quite wealthy enough.
Yeah.
But you're way above the idea that you're going to go out of business.
Yeah.
And you bounce around this kind of level, and you're sort of dictated to by market forces. Is the market good? Is the market bad? Good months, bad months. And that's where you stay, because you're only working on the active market. So there's only a finite amount of people at any one time that will use you.
Yeah.
Some people will use the competitors.
Yeah.
And some people will be time wasters.
It's like 3%, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's actually ready to buy now, isn't
Absolutely.
it? Yeah.
Right? So, but the principle of content marketing and marketing automation is the idea that companies like Apple, Google, Facebook and Amazon, what they do is they don't target the active market. They look at the dormant market.
Yeah.
So stuff that we've spoken about before, they look at something called 7-11-4. So you need to spend 7 hours with someone, have 11 touch points, or meet them in 4 different locations. You already know this stuff. It moves you into the emotional side of someone's brain, just gives you that kind of gut feeling of, I don't know why, I just feel like I should be using this broker, this service, this company. So then
like and trust again.
No like and trust. So then the question is, how do you 7-11-4 people before they hit the active market? And that's where you look. You have to totally rethink about the way you look at time wasters. So how do we 7-11-4 the time wasters so that when they do come to the active market, they just walk straight to us? And that's where content marketing comes in. So a lot of companies understand they should be putting good content out there. They've either researched or learnt about content marketing, and they understand the principle that if you can give someone some useful content, then they'll like you, and there's more chance they'll use you. But if you don't have an ecosystem behind it, a tracking system, then it becomes a lot of hard work without much reward. So the principle of how companies like Google, Facebook, Amazon and Apple do it is they will build funnels of content based around what would be useful content for somebody if they were, say, 5 years away from using our product. What would be useful content if they were 4 years away, 3, 2, 1, 6 months, and they're looking now. And then there's their tracking systems will look at what pieces of content has someone looked at. So what should I next be serving them up? If someone, for instance, has Googled Samsung versus Apple, right? Now, Samsung and Apple are both aware that content needs to be created. Whichever one the person ends up buying will just be whichever company does a better job of getting them into their ecosystem. So they're creating content, they're putting it out through PR, they're putting it out on social, they're putting it out on email, the tracking systems are looking, this person's looked at this piece of content, lo and behold, before you know it, now they're seeing an ad that says, oh, you can get a test drive of an iPhone, for 6 months for free, or whatever it is. They know what needs to come next to push the person along, and that's all happening while their staff are doing the human side of the business. So mortgage brokers, estate agents, and small businesses, they're not set up to do that manually. It's impossible. But the systems can do it for you. You just have to buy into the idea that there's nothing that's going to happen that's going to convince someone who wasn't going to buy a house tomorrow to suddenly buy a house tomorrow. It just means that over the years, your life's going to become a bit easier.
And it all comes back to that whole point. I preach constantly about relationship building. That's all you're doing, is you're building that relationship over time, kind of almost like planting a seed and watching it grow over that period of time, with a view that eventually at the end of it, you'll have a tree and you'll have a client and they'll buy from you. As you say, you 7-11 for them, and you become the preferred choice because they know, like, and trust you.
That's right. I mean, I did a presentation recently at a big event for estate agents, and just before I got up, someone was up talking about how they'd been going to breakfast networking clubs and the success that they'd been having from it.
Right. Okay.
And they were asking the people in the room if anyone else does it, and no one was really doing it, so that they were sort of encouraging that people get involved in this. And then when I got up to talk, I was saying, like, it's a great segue because breakfast networking clubs are a great idea. But there's also this thing called Facebook that's a breakfast networking club with 2.7 billion people at it. When people ask, well, what am I supposed to put on Facebook? What should we put up? Should we just post properties? Or, I'm sort of saying, well, just think that you were at a breakfast networking club. You probably wouldn't walk in with a sandwich board of properties going, who wants to buy one of these? Do you know what I mean? Like, there might be a place for it. If you've got funnels set up and someone's done X, Y, and Z, maybe they might start seeing properties. But as an introduction, you probably wouldn't walk in doing that. You'd probably walk in and talk about something a bit more useful, like, we actually get involved in helping the community do this. That'd probably be your opening piece at a breakfast networking meeting, wouldn't it? So, as you say, like, the clue is in the name, social, isn't it? Social network.
Without a shadow of a doubt. So looking at we were obviously talking before about your system that's going to solve this big problem, because I'm in that point where I've got my CRM system with my customers in it, I've got active campaign for the emails, I'm doing stuff on social media, I'm creating lead magnets that puts them into active campaign, but then that doesn't talk to the CRM, and it's like, nothing talks to each other. So we were talking before about your system that's going to solve this problem and rolling it out to mortgage advisors in the future.
Yeah.
So when do you think that's going to all come into place, and how's that going to change where the technology side and customer relations is going?
So when we built our systems with the idea that we would do the magical part, the marketing bit for people.
Yep.
We would suck the information from CRMs.
Yeah.
So an estate agent or a mortgage advisor or anyone in the kind of property world could just continue doing their transactional stuff. Our system would suck the data.
Yeah.
And we'll take care of finding the time wasters and turning them into clients. And we'll take care of turning clients into repeat clients and all of that sort of stuff. As it turned out, it was difficult for us to integrate with existing CRMs. Some because they just didn't want us to, and some because the technologies were just too different.
Yeah.
What their technology was created to do and what ours was created to do were just talking two different languages. So eventually we sort of looked at, okay, how would the ultimate system work for this? And we went back to basics, and we spent 2 years building a base level system that in its own right doesn't actually do anything. It just holds data.
Yeah.
But it's been built in with such cutting edge technology that you could look at that system as something like an iPhone with no apps.
Yeah.
It can do basic things like make a phone call, but all of the stuff that you really use your phone for, it doesn't do it.
Yeah.
So we've spent a few years building that base level system, and that system will be ready around about October time. And what we've done is built our own apps as apps that connect to that system.
Plug into it, nice.
So around about October time, we'll switch to that system, and our users probably won't really see a great deal of difference.
Okay.
They're still estate agents. We're not talking about mortgage advisors. They're still estate agents, and they're still really using it just for marketing purposes.
Yeah.
But what it gives us is a platform whereby we can now build any apps that we want.
Yeah.
So creating apps that do the transactional side of things becomes a 2-week job instead of a 2-year job.
Yeah.
And there's only one central source of data. So when you're putting in Mr. Mark Burgess because he filled out one of your lead magnets, that will be the same record that you work with when he wants a quote, and it'll be the same record that's finding him in Facebook. And everything will be connected in his history will all be in this one place. So our first goal is to get that system out. Our second goal would be to then create the apps around it or connect with other tools that are already built that create a complete experience for the estate agency side of things. Yeah. And then shortly after that, we'll look to make a few tweaks to it so that mortgage advisors could use that system independently of their own right. Yeah. Or even if they're a mortgage advisor that's working with, say, an iceberg estate agency client, just connect the two systems straight in. So that leads are flowing both ways in and out of the system. Yeah. An estate agent wouldn't no longer have to physically pass you the lead if they know that if my estate agency has got an agreement to work with you, I've just got to do my day-to-day stuff and it'll automatically be trying to get them over to see you. And then when it does, you'll jump in and the systems will just talk to each other.
Okay. Yeah. And that equally you said about earlier with the fact that it would almost generate the lead as well, because they can fill out the lead form via one of the emails or whatever it is, and that would then go in and everything. So
one of the big problems with a lot of the CRMs that we see is that you want it to be great, but then you're relying on the staff to enter the data. So what we're trying to do with this is try and get the CRM to update the data itself as much as possible. Yeah. So if, for instance, I don't know, let's make it up. Let's say that you've got someone can have 3 statuses: looking, not looking, or browsing. Let's just say, right? If you've got them in as looking, and they've been looking for, they've had that status for a certain amount of time, maybe more than 3 months, then the system should contact that person and say, oh, in our system, we have you with the status of looking. Would you class yourself as looking, browsing, or not looking? And so you can try and get the CRM to do a bit of the work for you. Same with things like chasing up viewings after someone's been to see a property. For estate agents, is a big problem. We can just automate it. We can send them. The computer will. They won't give up. The computer will just send them an email every day.
Nice.
What's the feedback? What's the feedback? What's the feedback? You can start sending them SMSs if you want. So that's once the data's in the system, then everything starts to become much easier after that.
Yeah, and that's the big thing, I think, looking at the world in which we're going in, and one of our mentors, Daniel, talks about the fact of we're in a data-driven industry. You look at how Trump won the election and all the things that have gone, you can tell generally by elections what the next 10 years is ultimately going to look like. And because that was all social media and they knew who was in what area to what content to target that person with, data is absolutely key over the next 10 years.
Yeah, and it's some people get a bit creeped out by it. And I can see why. But ultimately, if it leads to a better experience, then I think most people are okay with it. I think if you start collecting weird, creepy data that you don't need, like one of my estate agents the other day was saying, oh, maybe we could start asking people what their favourite football team is, and then when this happens, we could send them that. And I was saying, well, the idea is good, but it's creepy data. You don't need to know what their favourite football team is. Why would they want to tell you? And if you did send them a Manchester United mug or whatever, it's just a bit creepy. It's a bit weird. However, if they're looking for a new home because they're about to have a baby and they want to be near this specific school and they like these kinds of restaurants, and your data can help them achieve that, that's not creepy. In the same way as, like, if I'm self-employed and these are my circumstances and this is my revenue and this is my earnings and you can help me get a mortgage, that's not creepy. That's useful. So I think data, living in a data-driven world is 100%. Dan who talks about that is spot on. The micro campaigns, actually, the whole world is going that way. If you look at the trend, if you go sort of back how business was won in between sort of the 1920s and the 1960s, it was all relationships. Right. So the corner shop guy was also the town mayor and all of that sort of stuff. And then from the 60s through to sort of the millennium, big brands they were able to really take over because of mass distribution like television and radio, and no one could compete with that. Coca-Cola can just take over, and then from 2000 to about 2015-16, you're really sort of talking about those big brands trying to do the same thing on the internet, but there being a bit of a sort of rebellion taking place over that period of time, where people are slowly sort of realising, well, hold on a minute, I can reach 1 million people as well. I can reach 10 million people. And now all of a sudden you've got influencers and all of this sort of stuff going on. And we've almost come full circle back round to it's relationships again. So it's if you're out there, I see your stuff on social media, and until a little while ago we'd never met. But I almost knew you anyway.
Same.
And so if someone said to me, I need a mortgage, I'd have gone, I know a guy. But I don't know it. I don't know the guy. Do you know what I mean? So that's the power of it. If you just, going back to before, if all you ever do is stick properties up, and no one knows you, no one knows a guy, you need to, it's relationship building. It's like you become the person that does that stuff, and you need to do it now, because as time goes on, this stuff will just become totally unaffordable. If you don't build a data-driven business now, it will be. It's the equivalent of the gold rush. There was a point where people were in and made a whole ton of money. And then it just became like, you can't even get involved in this thing. At this point in time, like, big brands, they haven't even figured it out yet. They're still spending £20 million to have an advert in the middle of the Super Bowl. And what do people do in the middle of the Super Bowl?
Go to the toilet.
Go to the toilet, check their phone, go on Facebook. So, like, once they figure that stuff out, it won't be affordable. You won't be able to get involved in this stuff. So build a data-driven business company now, and then as time goes on, you've already got the market captured. You've already got all the data flowing around your database and your systems.
Yeah. And I think that is, even for someone who's starting out now in the stage that I'm at, I'm conscious of getting everyone. I've got my CRM which manages who we're speaking to, but I'm conscious of getting them at least into active campaign, so we can collect their email address, so we can re-talk to them, so we can send them offers or talk to them about what's going on in the business world. You know, Brexit is the big word at the moment, and providing how that's going to affect your business, or anything that I can find on the internet, just as you say, to maintain that relationship. So even though your system is going to solve a lot of the troubles, you could still use ActiveCampaign, you could still use Infusionsoft, you can still use it. You know, there's just those to maintain email.
Yeah, I mean,
as well as your socials.
Yeah, definitely. I always say to people, like, using Iceberg is completely optional.
Yeah.
But doing this stuff isn't.
Yeah.
You know, I spoke to a guy just yesterday who was talking to me about his business, and he's got a really good business. It's really strong in his area, and we were talking about these systems, and he was sort of saying, like, I've got to just try and figure out whether doing all this stuff is actually going to get us any extra revenue, because we're already market leader, we're already number one, we already do this, we already do that.
Yeah.
So, you know, basically, you know, the money that you're saying it's going to cost me, it has to bring me an extra 4 deals a year just to break even.
Yeah.
Will it? And I said to him, like, well, I don't know, maybe not.
Yeah.
I said, but I can tell you what will happen is that if you don't do this stuff, slowly over the years, things are suddenly going to get a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
And then a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
And you're going to be wondering, like, why?
Yeah.
Why all of a sudden are people going to that estate agent or that estate agent? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Why are we not even getting called in anymore?
Yeah.
Until you get to the point whereby there's a problem in the business, and then it's probably too late to solve.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not really about, oh, is all this stuff going to generate me more and more and more revenue? Maybe, possibly. That really depends on how good the offer is that you're telling people about.
Yeah.
But what it is going to do is it's going to create a more secure future for your company and your business. And just by being open, you actually increase the value of your company beyond that of just today's deals.
Yeah, because the more data you've ultimately got, the more you've got to pull on for the future. And I think, so changing lanes slightly then, where do you see the future of digital going, and how digital is going to impact not just estate agents, because how it affects estate agents will have a knock-on effect to mortgage advisors, but where do you see the next 5-10 years for our industries in an intertwined kind of point of view?
You've got a lot of companies are coming out of this situation whereby you could get business just by being in business.
Yep.
You're a mortgage broker, I need a mortgage, so I'm going to go to you.
Yep.
There's an estate agent and I need to sell my house, so I'm going to go to him.
Yep.
And as I was saying before, like, a lot of that, big brands could win that because they could be a bit more prominent, so they might attract a few more people. But I think there's a shift, certainly through the generation that's there at the moment, the millennials that are coming through, and, you know, my son's generation after that. They want some tangible reason why.
Yeah.
They don't really need you to just fill them with a load of noise.
Yeah.
So estate agents, for instance, they're used to saying things like, we do professional photography, we advertise on all the portals, we're trustworthy, and we do floor plans, things like that.
Yeah.
But let's break it down for a minute. Like, we do professional photography. I mean, what's the other option? I wasn't expecting you to come around and, like, take a crap photo of my house. You know, we're trustworthy. Like, what again? Like, what's the alternative?
Yeah.
It's just noise.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
So estate agents, they're sort of worried, like, oh, people are not seeing value in our fees. Some people are talking about purple bricks. You're not telling them anything of any value.
Yeah.
You're not giving them any transparent reason that they should use you. I don't think people mind paying for things if they feel like, I get it.
Yeah.
You know, so I think no doubt, like, marketing automation, artificial intelligence, technology, all of that stuff will have huge impacts on our industries over the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
You'll be able to buy a house using blockchain. You'll be able to buy a house using the technology that will let it happen in a week rather than 6 months. All of that stuff will happen, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But even forgetting that for a second, I think that what will be left will be companies that exist for a reason.
Yeah.
If you can't tell me why you, then you're going to struggle. So if there's 5 estate agents on a high street and you can't say, well, why should I use your one instead of the others, and be happy with the fact that it's not going to be for everybody, but this is why we exist.
Yeah.
We help families with young children move because of these reasons.
Yeah.
And that's what we really do.
Yeah.
So if you're a single guy with a bachelor pad, you might be better next door.
Yeah.
If you can get that comfortable with it, I think that's the future of business. People they want transparency. They don't care what you're going to charge. They want to know how you're going to help them, what you can do to help, how you can solve their problems.
Yeah.
All of that stuff is really the future of business. Without it, if you're just selling things based on the idea that, I don't know, someone else does it, so I should be able to do it, I think you're going to die pretty quick.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that as well. I think, having a niche, as you could potentially call it, I think it's so powerful. Me specialising in self-employed mortgages, I know another guy who does CIS, I know somebody else who does NHS staff only.
It's perfect.
That's the key thing.
And how great an example is that? I'm an NHS worker. He does NHS mortgages. Where else am I going to go?
Yeah.
We've got a client who only sells apartments.
Yeah.
If you've got an apartment, why would you not call him?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he could be sitting there going, but I'm missing out on all of this stuff. It doesn't matter.
No.
As long as you've got the end goal in mind and your numbers stack up.
Yeah.
You can earn the money you want to earn and achieve whatever it is you want to achieve. Get enough money so that you can run through one of your retirement programs where people can do that sort of stuff and retire from their business. Whatever it is, as long as the numbers stack up, you don't have to worry about the wider market.
Yeah.
I was talking earlier with one of your team about the fact that when we first started our system, I built it and thought, well, this is going to be great for everybody.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want to use a system like this?
Yeah.
So I tried to kind of almost white label it and say, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. And I went to see some pension companies and I went to see gyms and they all loved it. And every time I'd come back to the office, sit down with our developers and say, can it do this? And they'd go, yeah. And I'd be brilliant, build that. And then I'd come back and say, and a different idea, can it do this? They'd be like, yeah, but which one do you want us to work on?
Yeah.
And more and more and more and more and more. I eventually got to this stage where I sort of was saying to people, if you try and chase 2 rabbits, you're just going to end up with nothing.
Yeah.
If we chase one,
yeah,
we might get it.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, we niched down into the estate agency sector. We had no real reason to. Our tools could work for anyone.
Yeah, yeah.
And regularly we get contacted by big organisations saying, we want your tools. And I'm saying, we only do it for estate agents. And they're like, well, I don't think you understand. We'll spend some proper money. We want your tools. And I'm like, I do understand. It's just that we only do it for estate agents.
Yeah.
It makes life so much easier for us. We're not chasing our towel all the time. And we know how to create our marketing messages. So we specifically work with estate agents between 1 to 5 branches that have been around for more than 5 years. The owner probably worked in corporate estate agency for 10 years before that. They've got a good business, but they're a bit worried about the future.
Yeah.
And how easy is that marketing message?
Yeah.
And guess what? They're the leads that come to us. So it becomes an easy match.
Yeah.
They don't even have to sell anything. They're looking for what we're offering.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying, I don't know, here's a tool that will work for anyone.
Yeah.
How do you get anywhere with that?
Yeah, exactly. You struggle. And that's I did that through the whole 7 years of doing the insurance business. It was just, we'll do life insurance for anybody.
Yeah.
And we were attracting anybody, and it would be a life insurance for mum at £7, and then it would be a company director who wants to insure the family and the business and the kids, and you're just like...
Crazy.
Ah!
Crazy. I mean, again, I can remember talking with someone, I can't remember who it was, that was saying that they worked with a personal trainer. It might have even been Dan.
Yeah.
And when they first started working with them, he used to say he was a personal trainer, and then figured out that he only really used to train business people.
Yeah.
Early in the morning or late at night.
Yeah.
And the rest of his day was sort of filled with nothing really.
Yeah.
A few mums.
Yeah.
And so then it suddenly just switched to, instead of saying I'm a personal trainer, he would say I get busy people into the shape of their lives.
Yeah.
And guess who he started attracting?
Yeah.
And they'd fight for his time.
Yeah.
And they'd pay him proper money. It's a simple concept. You worry about, is there going to be enough? I'm missing out on a bit over here.
Yeah.
But I think, from my experience, if you can figure out your personas, who are your best clients, who will pay you proper money for the knowledge inside your head that you can bring to the table, life becomes a whole lot easier. And then you can just use those marketing systems that we spoke about to get that message out there and target specifically those people with those messages. It all just slots together.
Yeah. I think that's brilliant, and I think that is just such a key message in terms of know who you best serve, and equally what you're going to lose on one hand, you'll work with a smaller number of clients who are willing to pay you more, so you're actually working smarter, not harder, and therefore you're going to create a better business with more profit, and you're going to work with people who you actually enjoy working with.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I always say to mortgage advisors is, think about the ideal client who you would love to speak to 5 times a day, 5 days a week, because 48 weeks of a year, because I'd like to have 4 weeks holiday at least.
Yeah.
And that's the person who you've got to craft your message towards.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think you always think about the ones that kind of got away, and how you could have won that.
Yeah.
That's just natural, because at the end of the day, most entrepreneurs, we're just kind of salesmen at heart, really.
Yeah.
So I often ask myself, like, what could I have done different? Like, why did that guy not go ahead? But at the end of it, you just have to be comfortable with that. It's not for everyone.
Yeah.
What you do is quite specific.
Yeah.
As long as some people see the value in it and are going ahead, that kind of tells you everything. And like you say, you live a much happier life, because you don't end up with needy clients that didn't want your stuff in the first place.
Yeah.
Make you jump through hoops to do things that you never said you were going to do.
Yeah.
And pay you half the money of the good people. Yeah.
Sounds good. And then I want to change gains again from that kind of point, because I think the marketing side, perfect, the underpinning who your ideal client is, where technology is going, you need to build a data-driven business now. But from your, we've spoken quite a lot in general about business. You've clearly got a huge amount of business knowledge. What do you kind of see from looking at the estate agents, looking at the brokers? If someone's either starting out or a small team, haven't quite niched yet, if you were going to lay out some steps that somebody could say, right, obviously get your vision right, choose your ideal client, what would be kind of your business tips?
Some of the things that made a massive difference to our company, and I talked to some of our clients about it. Certainly if I do any one-to-one work with somebody, I'll talk to them about 4 main things, really. I mean, there's so much stuff that you could go into.
Yeah. But
the 4 main things that made a massive difference to our company were having actual goals for the business.
Yeah.
So where is the business actually supposed to be in 3 years' time?
Yeah.
If you sit down and figure it out, you can actually work backwards from there.
Yeah.
And rather than just sort of thinking, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'd like to be earning 50 grand a month. Who knows how? And so that means I've got a target now.
Yeah.
That's not good enough. How will you build a business where you're going to earn 50 grand a month?
Yeah.
There has to be quantifiable.
Yeah.
What's going to happen? You might actually find, it can't be done.
Yeah.
In which case, maybe you're wasting your time, or maybe you need to change your ideas slightly. But either way, fast forward 3 years and go, where do we actually want to be in 3 years' time? And then quantify it. How is it going to happen? It doesn't have to be with your existing team, because obviously over 3 years you might grow. But what would need to be in place in 3 years for you to be where you want it to be?
Yeah. And
then from that, you can go backwards and go, so what should our 1 year goal be?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a third of what the 3 is, because you're gonna scale up.
Yeah.
But what's a realistic goal for the next 1 year that puts us on a path to that 3 year goal?
Yeah.
And from there, what you do is you break that down into quarterly meetings, which we call ROCS meetings. So the idea of a ROCS meeting is that if you've got a glass and you put sand in it first and then stones, there's no room for the rocks at the top, which are the important things.
Yeah.
If you put the rocks in first and then the stones, the sand just filters through and you fit it all in the glass. So you do the day-to-day stuff anyway. So once you've got clear 1 year goals, you have a ROCS meeting every quarter where you take a day out of the office and the whole team, the leadership team, sit down and they go, right, what can anyone see that's going to stop us hitting this 1 year goal?
Yeah.
And you make this big long list of stuff. And then you go through that list and you find some of the things are the same and you combine them. Some of them are just to-dos and you can kind of kill them. And then you've got some that are the rocks, which you keep.
Yeah.
You end up with maybe 5 rocks.
Yeah.
You distribute the ownership of them around the team. Doesn't mean that team member's got to do the whole thing. They're just responsible for getting it done over the next quarter. They can use all the resources that they need to get it done. And each quarter you come back and you find that you achieved these rocks.
Yeah.
And guess what? You actually hit your 1 year goal.
Yeah.
It just happens.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
That 3 year thing that I dreamt of, oh my God, we're like a year towards it. And so that's a big thing, I think. Without the goals, someone once sort of explained it to me as is in like, you know, if you had to get from this side to the other side of London without a map, it'd be almost impossible.
Yeah.
Kind of complicated.
Yeah.
You might just go around in circles. But fortunately, the tube map has already sorted it out for us.
Yeah.
You just walk up the road, go to Liverpool Street, you get a train straight across.
Yeah.
So if you've got the map, it's actually pretty easy.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big thing that made a huge difference for us. I think the buyer personas made a massive difference. The stuff we spoke about before, like who do you actually serve?
Yeah.
Get out the files of clients that you loved working with, they loved working with you, and they paid you a great fee.
Yeah.
Line them all up, and you're going to see some amazing similarities between these people.
Yeah.
And then you can start saying, wow, actually, that's who we serve.
Yeah.
And that's why they used us, and that's why they were happy.
Yeah.
From that, you can create customer journeys. So customer journeys was another massive thing for us. So we sat down and we planned out what will someone experience when they interact with our company from the moment of discovery through discovery calls, through signing up, through upgrading, through for everlasting love and everything in between.
Yeah.
Which sounds a bit overwhelming, but you only need to start with the first bit. What happens when someone signs up with you?
Yeah.
What will they experience in the first week,
Yeah.
2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, so that there will never be a point where they're just a bit... and if there is, what happens when you've got customer journeys is if a complaint comes in, instead of it being a situation where you shout at somebody,
Yeah.
you can just say, that's weird, let's get the customer journey out and see how that happened.
Yeah.
And you fix the problem forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So customer journeys, and the final one is core values. Core values, loads of companies have what they call values, and they write them out and they put them up on the wall.
Yeah.
But I think very few companies actually understand how you really use core values to just make your company awesome.
Yeah.
So we were taught about core values, and we were taught that they should really be what makes up you as the founder of the business.
Yeah.
Because you can just live them.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can't be things that are aspirational.
Yeah.
Like I'm terrible with timekeeping, so it'd be pointless me putting in there anything about that. You know,
Yeah.
even if I wished that I wasn't, you're not. So there must be real life things, and there's no point in them just being noise. Again, like something like trustworthy. There's no point.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't need to be a core value. We're not expecting people to rob us. So you create these core values that really get to the grips of what makes up you as a person.
Yeah.
And then from that, you hire, fire and promote your staff based on those things. And what ends up happening is, one, it self-polices the team. So people that don't fit those core values, they end up just saying, oh, this isn't really for me, I'm going to go and work somewhere else.
Yeah.
The people that stay and the people that you employ on that basis, they're all really into that stuff, and they all sort of self-police each other, and just some amazing stuff starts getting churned out of that business.
Yeah.
So I think those are the 4 things. As much as you would think, oh, starting a business, like you need to generate sales, you need to do this, you need to get leads going, you need to do all of that stuff, but that's just hustle, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just hustle. I mean, you just do it. You just
Yeah.
find a way of getting the business. These things, I think, if I was starting a new business tomorrow, I would have to have those 4 things in place before I employed a member of staff or anything.
Love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely awesome. And I think to touch on that as well, because one of the things I picked up from what you just said in there is the fact of your team are highly motivated to helping you build out your vision. And what do you think makes them buy into? Because you know what it's like as an owner of a company. Initially, when you start out, you always feel like nobody's as committed as me. No one's going to put the hours in. No one's going to care about the customers as much as I do.
Yep.
You know, because it's my baby, my business, etc. How do you get your team to buy into that whole future, that they come in as almost as passionate as you are every single day? Because that's what it sounds like to me. I think that culture sounds awesome.
Yeah, I think you have to look at it from their point of view.
Yeah.
I want all my staff to be committed.
Yeah.
It's one of our core values.
Yeah.
And what does that actually mean? Well, what it means is that if I say to somebody, oh, what happened with so-and-so? I don't want them to say to me, I'm not sure, I passed it over to Tom.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about Tom. I'm asking you what happened with it.
Yeah.
So I want that level of commitment, and I want the commitment to know that, like, I'm not expecting you to be here till 10 o'clock every night.
Yeah.
But should the circumstances arise whereby what's happening requires you to be here till 10 o'clock,
Yeah.
be here till 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Now the flip side of that is like, well, why would I do that? So we have to look at ourselves and go, well, why would you do that?
Yeah.
So we look at how do you create an environment from our perspective where we're committed to you, we're committed to trying to make this the best place that you could possibly work.
Yeah.
So regardless of salary, like you don't want to work anywhere else. So we give our staff unlimited holiday days.
Yeah.
They can take as many holiday days as they please. There's no limit to any of that. Where you have food delivered to their desks, free drink. There's a PlayStation in the office. There's a football table in the office. But it's not so that we can create an environment like Facebook where we're just all sitting around stone doing nothing. Because the one of the core values is commitment.
Yeah, yeah.
It's get the done.
Yeah, yeah.
So yes, you can play the PlayStation. I don't care, because I know that you didn't get to play the PlayStation last night because you were working till 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
But if someone came in every day, just did 9:30 to 5:30, they left and they spent an hour playing the PlayStation, it's going to break the core values.
Yeah,
They'll be gone within a week.
Yeah.
So it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
Literally, if one of my team want to get up from their desk and go and play the PlayStation, I don't care.
Yeah.
Because I know they're all so committed.
Yeah.
They're sending me messages at 8 o'clock at night going, I've just been thinking about this and I've just been thinking about that. They don't want to work anywhere else.
Yeah.
So I think it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
And I think when you're hiring people, you have to be quite ruthless with those core values. We put some things in our kind of interview process that are really probably a bit unfair.
Yeah.
But they're based around the core values, and people either pass those tests or don't. So if we did our first interview and I liked you, and then second interview, I might make it quite difficult for you to get to.
Yeah.
I might even make it short notice or in an awkward location or a weekend or something. Now, you're either going to come because you want to be involved in this thing and you don't care, you'll rearrange whatever else it has you've done, or you'll say, maybe quite reasonably, I've got something on that day.
Yeah.
At which point I'll probably go like, this ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
And we probably lose some great people because of that.
Yeah.
But what we end up with, the ones that we hire, are just all off the charts with our core values.
Yeah.
They are 100% into it.
Yeah.
So I think it's flipped from the idea that we used to interview people and try and sell the business to them, to the idea that now we try and talk people out of it and say, look, I've got to talk to you about these core values, because if it's not your thing, really, you're wasting your time. You'll be gone in like 2 weeks.
Yeah. I can see how that absolutely transforms a business as well.
Yeah.
And actually, you get people, if someone buys into the values, it's that whole like plus like, isn't it? Your best friends are your best friends, because generally you've got some values in common, and they stick around and you do things for each other. And if they rang you up late at night and said, my car's broken down and I'm stuck on the M25, the wife's at home with the kids, I know I'll jump in the car for my best mate and go and pick him up.
Absolutely. And
I
think from a staff point of view, it gives you some clarity on what's expected of you as well.
Yeah.
Obviously you're supposed to do the job that you were employed to do.
Yeah.
But what else?
Yeah.
Our staff, they know that we have quarterly appraisals, and not just for the sake of it, but we have a quarterly appraisal where we sit down and we just go through the core values.
Yeah.
So we say to people, what did you do around be an expert this quarter? What did you do around be committed? What did you do around be connected?
Yeah.
And they tell us. And if someone said to me, just around be an expert, I've been so busy, I haven't had a chance to do any self-development this quarter.
Yeah.
Then I would just say, like, cool. I mean, it's one of the 3 most important things in the company, and you've got full license from me to, like, literally get up from your desk and go on a course or webinar, read a book, do what you like in work time.
Yeah.
So make sure you do it over the next quarter, otherwise you can't work here.
Yeah.
It's really as simple as that.
Yeah.
And as I say, that will naturally, if someone's not that way inclined, that will naturally make someone go like, sod this.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
going to work somewhere else.
Yeah.
But the ones that stay, you don't have that problem. They're like, oh, I've done this course, I've done this webinar, I've read this book, I've done this around committed. Yeah, I did this, connected this, and it's like awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, and we can promote based on that.
Yeah.
It becomes less about did you get to work on time.
Yeah.
It's more about did you do your stuff.
Yeah.
You know, did you learn anything new this month?
Yeah.
Are you connected with the team? Great, you're doing an awesome job.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I think those values only work in the way that they do, because from what you've said, the vision is so good, the vision for the next 3 years is so big, that the values help them buy into that vision. So they buy into the vision, they live the values, and therefore that moves you closer to getting it done.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like Dan introduced us to the idea of tying your business to a global goal as well.
Yeah.
So we did that. That made a big difference.
Yeah.
So our company now has our vision for our business.
Yeah.
But we have a bigger vision for how we have an impact on the planet.
Yeah.
You know, so for every estate agent that invests in improving their education and their tools by working with us, we give education to an underprivileged child who otherwise wouldn't have had one.
Yeah.
And what that creates is a situation whereby, you know, last year we can see that we impacted on the lives of like 2,500 kids.
Yeah.
So internally it becomes slightly different. It becomes less about let's try and sell some stuff to estate agents and like, guys, we need to help some more kids.
Yeah.
You know, we've got stuff to do.
Yeah.
And we like I don't care that, like, you know, I don't know, it's 5:30.
Yeah.
We're trying to solve these problems in the world. We're trying to modernise the property industry, and by doing it, we're going to help all of these kids.
Yeah.
And I think all of those things, your visions, your values, what you truly believe in, all of that stuff just allows you to create an awesome team that feel like they have a real purpose.
Yeah. I absolutely loved it. I feel inspired. I don't know about everybody else. It's given me a massive amount of inspiration. It's made me try not to think about my business because I'm so engaged in what you're saying, but I know that on the way home today I'm going to be thinking about my business without a shadow of a doubt, and I think that's kind of a good place to end on the podcast, because it's certainly, we've covered so much today in relation to marketing, the future of digital, business as an overview.
Yeah.
I think there's so much value in here for people to take away. But one thing I always like to end on is the Mortgage Pro podcast.
Yep.
And pro to me is all around perseverance, results and opportunity. That's kind of, you know, if you persevere, you're going to get the results, which is going to create you opportunities. Mm-hmm. But for you, what does being pro mean? You know, by the sound of it, you've got commitment as part of your values in your team.
Yeah.
But what do you think being pro actually means?
For me, it's around self-development.
Yeah.
For me, it's the idea that the minute that we feel like we know it all,
yeah,
you start falling behind.
Yeah.
So I make sure that as important as anything else in my month,
yeah,
there's some time in there for me to do some form of self-development, whether it's working with a mentor, going to a seminar, like going to a webinar, and yeah, quite often I'll go onto them and I'll think, I knew that stuff,
yeah,
but that's all right.
Yeah,
that's fine. At least that tells me that, like, okay, I'm still top of my game.
Yep.
If the top sports personalities in the world need 7 different coaches,
yep,
you know, we can't really be expected to get by on our own.
Yep.
So for me, being pro is about, you know, do some self-development. It doesn't really have to be necessarily in your field. You know, in our work, we have a self-development library, and sometimes the graphic designers, they don't want to read about design. That's fine. Read about, like, personal wealth.
Yep.
Read about anything. Just develop as a person.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, the danger, I think, is if you're in a company whereby you are hoping that it grows and it scales, people will end up getting left behind.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of business mentors say the team that gets you to A won't be the team that gets you to B, and I find that kind of sad.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that people realise that and have the opportunity to go, you know what, I can be A, and then I can become B, and C and D, and you know, and just dedicating a bit of time to figuring that stuff out with access to it, like we've got now, YouTube and your podcasts and all of this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Why would you just put yourself in a silo and go like, nah, I know it all?
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's around self-development.
100%, and I can second that hugely, because I went self-employed in 2006. I only started personal development in 2016, and I can honestly say the last 3 years of my life, I've learnt more, I've built more relationships, I've had better opportunities, I've created more results. But ultimately, as a knock-on effect to that, because family's my highest value, they've all benefited from it.
Yeah,
and that's fundamentally is why do you want to do this stuff, and it massively helps.
I think it goes back to what you said. Part of it is creating opportunities.
Yeah.
And you may go to a course to learn about core values.
Yeah.
And come out of it with a contact that's going to change your life.
Yeah.
If you don't put yourself in those situations and environments, then nothing's going to change, is it?
No, exactly. Couldn't agree more. Well, Mark, thank you very much indeed for coming on the Mortgage Pro podcast.
It's a pleasure.
As I say, hugely inspiring today. If people want to get in contact with you, because I know you're big on the whole social scene as well, that's how I followed you, and you said you followed me. How would people get in contact or find you?
I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn, probably all of the social networks, but to be honest, Facebook's the best option. Facebook's where I'm most active. So look me up on Facebook. You'll find my bald head and my tattoos quite easily, I imagine. Mark Burgess, Iceberg Digital. I should pop up. Just add me on Facebook.
And if anybody is interested in your software, be it an estate agent now or a mortgage broker towards the end of the year or next year, they just go to the Iceberg Digital website, I would presume.
Yeah, go to Iceberg Digital, or again, add me on Facebook and message me there. However, if you put Iceberg Digital into Google, you'll find us, and then we'll start following you around and remarketing to you and doing all sorts of stuff.
You won't be able to escape.
That's right.
Awesome. Thank you very much indeed.
Brilliant.
Really
Thanks.
appreciate it. Enjoyed
Cheers.
it.
No problem.